Hey everyone, my name's Andy Dowling from the band Lord and host of the Andy Social and Self-Starter podcasts. I'm here to talk about the basics when it comes to podcasting. Okay, so you want to start a podcast. Awesome. But why? It's really important to get the big questions out of the way first, so you've got some intention, you set some clarity around what you want to do to ensure that it actually happens. There's nothing worse than having a bunch of wishy-washy ideas that just hinder you from actually getting started. So there are a few things that you should keep in mind before you get started and questions that are really important to ask. Why do I want to start a podcast? What is my podcast going to be about? Will it have a theme? Will it be just me, or will it be guests as well? Will I have a co-host? How often will I release episodes? What can I afford and what's the budget? To give you some examples, when I started the Andy Social podcast, the idea behind it was to interview as many different people from all walks of life as possible. I didn't have any rules around theme or topic, but the intention was to release an episode every week. And in hindsight, that was far harder than I actually thought. I also set budgets, I worked out costs around gear, and I just set up as many things in advance before I actually got started. This ensured that while it was a little bit clunky to begin with and lots of mistakes along the way, I was able to continue moving forward and taking action. And that's why now 3.5 years later, I'm still doing the podcast. On the flip side, with Self-Starter, a completely different beast. I'd already been doing podcasts for a couple of years, and I had the idea that I wanted to have a particular theme. I wanted to talk about small business, self-employment, and freelancing. And I wanted to share those stories so that I could teach other people how to create their own desirable lifestyle. So there's a bit of purpose behind it. I had already understood the costs behind it, I had a budget in place, and I had the experience from the Andy Social podcast, so I was able to get started. But I still had the plan in advance to ensure that I could actually make this become a reality. These are just a few things to consider, and I would really recommend writing everything down, whether it be in a Word document or an old school pen and paper. It's important to actually physically get it out and onto some form of document so that it can get really clear and ensure that you're actually going to proceed and get started with your podcast.